Monday, okay, that's the, okay. Do you know what variance is? You think you can pick out a day, a week ahead and give a realistic, you know? I have kids! Get on here!
Oh, as we talked about in our last video, we got our rejection right at this line. However, we haven't hit the downside target. Will we? We'll talk about that specific target. And as well, two huge downside targets. Both of them have to hold that we are extremely confident will be mega bounce areas. Guys, as you can see, after holding support for about a day and a half on this red line, trying to hold there, we did break through. Now, what does this mean for cryptocurrency? We're going to be talking about our most likely target to the downside. Right now, momentum is shifting towards the downside, so it's very likely that we'll get these certain pullback areas over the next 3 or 5 days here. And as well, Bitcoin did break out of this triangle after trying to find some support here again for about 6 or 7 4-hour candles. Tried to break up and got rejected at the same line again, and now it's going down, guys. What is the downside target? And as well, the Pantera CEO says Bitcoin will explode in 3 to 9 months. That's a huge variation, a huge window there. But he also warns that equities will not see a V-shaped recovery. Wow, let's dive into this. Wow, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another extremely exciting episode. We got a lot to talk about today, guys. Today is the big day. Today's a deciding moment. We talked about in our last video about Bitcoin trying to stay steady over the weekend, but it did not. In fact, it pumped a little bit yesterday, and then it ended up dumping. And because of that, instead of a gap to the downside, we have a gap to the upside now. So now we have a gap here, pretty much in between 72 and 71. So this area right here, guys. So that's honestly a better situation than I was expecting, because if we would have gotten a pump, then that downside gap would have been a little more concerning. But now we have a gap to the upside, so if anything, that might be telling. But it also is worth noting, there's a potential gap here. It does look like it filled, like it looks like it wicked in candles here if you zoom in. But again, you never really know with this, right at 6,400, which is one of our big targets anyway. So we'll be taking a look at that, guys. And as well, if you want to enter for these ledgers, make sure to leave a comment below, hit the ding, hit the like, and I'll be shipping out the winners from last week today. They're ledgers, so cool stuff. Ding, like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into it. So the first chart I really want to take a deep dive in is the Coinbase chart here on the daily. You can see we found for 2 days resistance here, and then for the third day, we finally got rejected currently. So as of right now, we're actually holding support right on the 21-day moving average here for Coinbase, which is right around 67.70, 67.80, right this area here. And we didn't come all the way down to our target, but again, the momentum is really building to the downside right now, so we're going to focus primarily in this update for the next few days of what most likely downside targets will be. As we said in the last video, it's very likely that if we're going to see downside, if we're going to see one final move, we'll be seeing it soon. And then the rest of the year could actually end up being very bullish. But for right now, things need to be a little not bullish. Realistically, we did rally from like 3,800 to 7,300 in only the past about a month, actually a little less than a month. So huge dip there, but we still had a rally of like $4,000 almost here on this chart. So obviously it is possible that we spend some time getting a little bit of retracement. Specifically, there's 2 areas that we really need to look at. One of them is pretty common sense, and the other one's actually really important, so we can take a look at that. But as well, I want to point this out to you guys. This was the ascending channel that we were in ever since March 12th, March 13th here. So we were spending a little bit of time in this danger zone, as we talked about in the last update, and this is not a good zone to be in. So clearly we were finding a lot of resistance there, and we actually broke down out of it. You can see when we actually touched that line and went through, pretty significant candle, about a $400 or $500 candle on the 4-hour, and we're currently bouncing around in there. So this chart won't give us much more information for the downside at these price levels right now. So that's why we need to switch over to these other charts here. So first off, you can see here, we're finding some support kind of where the previous support was, right around that 67, 68. It's a very key level. I think it's a pretty strong area. You can see over the past few months, it has some, actually about a past few months, it has some decent volume there. But more importantly, if we switch to this chart, you can see the 64, okay? These are the 2 big levels, I think, right? The 64, which we've been saying for a long amount of time, and then even longer than that, if we go to this chart, the 5,400. So between the 5,400 and the $5,000 level is like the ultimate pullback area. We don't want to break that. We can remain extremely bullish if we find support around 5,400. And again, this is like worst case scenario going over the next week or two. This is not immediate. This is more just looking at levels that'll be important most likely over the next week or two, okay? So we've had 1, 2, 3, 4 pretty green weekly candles. It would make sense if we did get a red candle sprinkled in there, maybe even 2. So again, that's why we're looking on the downside. If we actually remove this, you guys can see 64 is just huge. If we break that, you can see this is where the most amount of volume is right here on this chart. We're currently right above that, so I think that's why we're holding there right now. But again, if we would break the biggest level to the downside, I still think for a few reasons the 200 week moving average has to be key. This is probably overall, if we're going to get a pullback, if we're going to get a significant pullback, then the 200 moving average definitely has to be support there. Now, we talked about getting a double bottom back like around here, and that could possibly be the case. Okay, we have a nice rally after dropping a lot. Okay, if we got another bounce here, similar to like we did here, guys, that would be pretty good. Now, there's always the possibility that we don't continue down, but I think right now, personally, the best thing that we could do is see some consolidation, final move down. Okay, we've been hearing about this a lot, a final move down before really getting some exuberant price action. Okay, some very strong stuff. So one of the reasons we're holding right here, you might be wondering, again, this right here, very key, very large amount right there. And as well, the 64 perfectly lines up with this descending channel. So again, going back into that $6,400 level, I think is going to be key. I think we probably will want to get a bounce. And if it plays out over the next few days, it might look something like that if we get a bounce. That would be the most bullish scenario. But again, we do have the ability, we do have the potential. This would be the bearish scenario if we came all the way down here before finding something and then continuing up. So of 2 bearish scenarios, we have this being a bounce area and this being a bounce area, but most likely those are going to most likely act as bounce areas. So that's something to keep in mind there. And I do want to note as well, this article on Daily Hodl published actually yesterday, Pantera CEO says Bitcoin will explode in 3 to 9 months. And he also warns about a V-shaped recovery not happening. So that's absolutely crazy. So if that would happen to the traditional economy, that would be absolutely devastating, I think, for a lot of people, because I think a lot of people are betting right now that the economy will come back strong. But if it doesn't, I think that'll throw a wrench in everything, right? So he says right here, I think it's going to take a few months for the whole world to sort through their own problems. Most money managers are not thinking about new assets they can invest in. They're thinking about kids and family and what they can do to protect themselves. But over the next couple months, people will start refocusing on new opportunities, and I think crypto will really explode 3 to 9 months from now. Not right now, he says, but once people really have the time to look into it, they'll explode. And I think a lot of people have a lot of free time right now, and honestly, I think a lot of people are looking for alternatives because, let's be honest, guys, right now, everybody's getting free money. Money is just being thrown around. Money is just being printed like crazy. It's absolute chaos. It's absolutely worthless. And I think a lot of people, if anything right now, they're realizing, wow, this system is pretty messed up. It's pretty garbage. What other alternatives do we have? And honestly, guys, why are you here? A lot of you are here to make money, but again, a lot of you as well are here because you think cryptocurrency is a good alternative long term. Okay, and again, it states here, not right now, but once people really have time to look into it. From all cycles I've seen over 35 years, he says, I have a very strong intuition that Bitcoin will hit a record price within the next 12 months and maybe way, way, way higher than that, okay? So Bitcoin was born in a financial crisis. It will come of age in this financial crisis. I really think that this will be a test. Basically, in a year or two, when we look back, Bitcoin and blockchain is either going to have been very impactful and it's off to the races, or will fail. So basically what he's saying there is we look back in about a year and a half and we'll know if Bitcoin was the right call or if it completely failed. He says here, I think this is the most complicated and really crazy environment that I've ever experienced. There's so much uncertainty. The only thing that I'm certain of is not going to be a V-shaped recovery. Wow, absolutely crazy, guys. And I did want to give a shout out to a website my friend is working on in collaboration with some of our other friends as well. For all you gamers out there, check this out. There's actually a nice sale going on, guys. Link is in the description if you want to check it out. I will let you know I was told the shipping times are pretty long right now because of the current world situation. So the shipping will actually take a little bit longer than usual, but definitely interesting. Definitely check it out. And as well, let me know what you think about this, guys. Everybody is basically saying that if we're going to see a peak in cryptocurrency, if we're going to see things get absolutely crazy, it's going to be beginning within the next few months and going into the end of the year, and as well, obviously, 2021 and beyond. But let me know what you think. The hardest time is going to be within these next 2 or 3 months, I think. And again, I think that perfectly lines up kind of with what we're dealing with in the world situation. I think maybe things would have been different, but because of what's happening in the world, I think obviously it's going to affect the long-term cycles of Bitcoin and really everything, guys. But really the main thing here is that, yes, the economy is in a very not good place. People are really questioning the safety of their banks. They're questioning the safety of their US dollars. People are seeing money given away like crazy. I don't know, people are getting stimulus checks. People on unemployment are getting tons of free money. Some people are making more money doing nothing because of unemployment than people who work, 40 plus hours a week. It's absolutely crazy. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I think people are just really going to continue losing faith in the US dollar, in the stock market, in the economy, and they're going to want to find something that they can put their faith into. And you can put your faith into Bitcoin. You don't have to trust another human being, okay? It's technology, and I think that's why a lot of people are going to flock to it. But again, it won't happen overnight. It won't happen within the next month or two, most likely. It'll probably take some time, but it is very possible that it happens this year.